And I got a double dual entrepreneurship in a space that I'm so excited about. I've actually made several investments into stem cell for the last probably decade, and they're doing extremely well. So I wanted to welcome Dr. Carlos de la Hoz here. He is the medical director at the Neomedicine Institute. And of course, his partner in crime over there, everybody can recognize. I've been blessed with my business partner, Warren Moon, to really get to know this guy, Cris Carter, the Pro Football Hall of Fame wide receiver, one of my faves, because I am a Buckeye and a Buckeye fan. So welcome both of you to the playbook.
Oh, thanks, Dave.
Good to see you. So,
thank you, Dave.
Doc, I want to start with you because I think a lot of people hear about stem cell, but they don't know the value in where it's going. It is the future, there is no doubt. But I'd like just to start to lay a little bit of a foundation about the benefits of stem cell and utilizing stem cell procedures on athletes and, believe it or not, old middle-aged mutant turtles that fly a lot and may actually need some regeneration as well without having to have surgery.
Of course, David. Thank you so much for inviting us. We're very excited about what we're doing. Like you mentioned, stem cells is the future. These cells are basically very privileged cells that we are born with, but as we get older, the capacity for these cells to reproduce and also to exist decreases. When we reach around the age of 65, we see a significant decline of these cells. So there's a lot of interest right now, which is what we're doing in saving these cells early on, as young as possible, so that you can harness the power of these cells. And like you mentioned, not only for athletes and sports injuries, but also for a lot of conditions like any degenerative conditions, including heart disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, diabetes. So all these conditions, there's already a lot of technology that is being developed. And in the next few years, we're going to see these cells taking mainstream and being used for curing a lot of these diseases and treating diseases. So it's estimated that 1 out of 2 adults are going to have a regenerative medicine procedure in their lifetime. So, we're looking at pretty much everybody should be doing this.
And Cris, obviously you get approached by tons of different companies and people to give your endorsement. And I've been blessed when I ran Lee Steinberg, as well as with Warren Moon, with our marketing company, to trust and vet, especially when it's medical in nature, because your brand and your credibility are on the line. And I think what's so important is for people to understand why you would make the decision to partner with the Neomedicine Institute, with Dr. Carlos himself, because I am sure you have a long list of people who would want you to partner and work with and endorse different procedures, nutrition, supplements, energy drinks, etc., even probably apparel.
And I do appreciate Carlos, what he's saying, but I think his overall expertise, his overall demeanor, his overall goals in life of what he's trying to accomplish as far as having an impact on the world in a positive way as far as their health. So for me, it's about trust. We have a mutual friend who brought us together. We hit it off. We liked each other. I like where the company is. I like the direction and what they're doing. I like the personnel that they have. So all the different expertise areas that they can tap in on. And long time ago, I made a decision to take care of my body. And that was so that I knew that I could play at the highest level and be the most effective playing football. And now that 20 years after my career, I'm still making that same decision that I'm going to take care of my body. I'm going to take care of my head and my other extremities. And I'm going to have an expert, just like I had when I was training, lifting weights, running sprints, interval training, all those things that can guide me, the rest of my life. And I'm trying to let people know, because life's about information. And there's so much new information out there about stem cell, especially for athletes and entertainers, and especially high net worth individuals. If you can do this when you're younger, like I wish I'd have met Carlos 20 years ago and stored my cells. I got my cells stored, but I wish I had the 20 years, the 30-year-old cells compared to the mid 50 cells. But, it's a conscious decision that I've made to take care of my body. And I plan on working with Carlos the rest of my life to make the rest of my days even more enjoyable, so that I can stay athletic And as things begin to creep up, like Carlos and I, we've been working on recently, I have a little neck and shoulder problem. I'm in the process of getting MRI and getting that treated. So as things come up, so it's not just your current condition. As you get old, the body begins to deteriorate and you need some type of plan in place. Proper preparation prevents a piss poor performance. So that's why I've added Carlos to my team. And that's why Carlos has put me on his team, because we still want to win as we mature.
And as degenerative ailments occur, especially in athletes, and as I'm getting older, that means all the guys that I used to represent and I still work with are getting older. And although they look younger than me, they have cartilage, ligaments, tendons, and muscles that are degenerating. What are some of the lessons, Doc, that you want to raise awareness to that a lot of people may have some misconceptions about, especially with stem cell?
Yeah, for stem cells, the thing is that the main thing that we want to create is awareness, and we want to give the public the right information. Unfortunately, there's a lot of misconceptions about stem cells, and we want to be leaders in guiding the public and telling them what they should be doing. The reality is, like you mentioned, we're all aging. Every day we're older. We're exposed to chemicals and agents that damage our DNA. And this is the reason why we should be storing our stem cells. So right now we have created an adult stem cell bank where we can store cells. And those cells are stored cryogenically in liquid nitrogen. They're frozen at minus 300 degrees Celsius. And that way those cells don't age another day. By doing that, and we believe that everybody should be doing this, you save those cells for the future. Like Cris mentioned, it's better to prevent than to treat. And we're seeing that over and over. We're seeing that it's better to prevent these degenerative conditions, like you mentioned, and especially for athletes and patients that have a high chance of injuries. We're seeing that with stem cells, which the best stem cells are your own, we are able to regenerate cartilage, tendons, ligaments, muscles, and not only in sports injuries, but again, we're seeing it that is also being used in other conditions, any degenerative condition that anybody can suffer. So it's very valuable.
And Cris, for the sports community, obviously, you have to communicate at a different level. I always say, when I'm speaking, I got to meet the crowd where they're at. And there's a vernacular and vocabulary that you have to use when you're explaining some of these more hyper complex medical procedures. And there's this wall of resistance when we talk to the sports community. What are some of the things that you've learned from personal experience in partnering with the Neomedicine Institute that you like to, start off to meet people where they're at, that they, may not really understand it? How do you explain to another Hall of Famer, what you're doing today, what you've done in the past, and how you can help them?
Right. This is for things that you can see and for the things that you can't see. See, it's so easy if your knee's bothering you to get an MRI or something, think about cartilage, think about meniscus or something like this. But given what we've taken our body through, especially athletes, I can relate to them. Most of us have been playing sports since we were 8 years old. We have a lot of damage to our body that we don't necessarily even know about. All you have to do is log on to the internet a couple times a month. You'll see Ray Guy, Hall of Famer, passing away. There's a number of other former NFL players this month that have passed away. So in doing that, I try to let them know we've all been through the same thing. And I have an advantage. Yes, I used to be younger in the NFL like you, but now I'm older. And that's something you wouldn't know. So I know where your body is going to be and things you don't know. There are going to be times in your 40s and 50s, you're going to be like, man, am I in my 60s? The way my ankles and knees feel. So I try to communicate that we're a fraternity. We understand each other. We've been doing this a long time. And this is preventative to the things that you can't see. And the sooner you can get your program started, the sooner you can get your stem cells stored up, the better off you're going to be.
And is insurance involved these days? Is the expense outrageous? Do you need to be a high net wealth athlete? Can you be an athlete that played at Ohio State for 4 or 5 years and then, went to the pros for a cup of coffee, but now even though you didn't play that long, like you and Warren Moon, catching 122 passes in one season, you still are going to have some issues. Do you have to be super rich to do this?
No, you don't have to be super rich. I'll let Carlos go over the price and everything with you, but you have to realize that everything in this life that's good for you, there's a price to be paid. When I started eating organic in the mid 90s, people thought that I was crazy. Now, organic is in every store. So there was a price that I had to pay. I used to get up and train at 6 a.m. because my trainer knew that Jerry Rice on the West Coast, when he got up and trained at 6, the greatest receiver, and the only way I could have an advantage was to get up before him. So there was a price to be paid. No, you don't have to have had hit the Powerball recently, but for the good things in life, there is some type of sacrifice. So I don't want to be misleading in that.
Well, I do like to tell people when they tell me, well, they're kind of expensive. I always say, how much are you spending on that, Porsche of yours? Wouldn't you rather spend more money on your body than your car? It never makes sense to me. But what are some of the regulatory advancements? I've told you, Doc, that I've made some investments over the last decade, and at first, wasn't legal anywhere.
Right.
What are the regulatory advantages today? Are we seeing this in every state? Is it going to continue to be legal everywhere? What concerns do you have?
Yes. So I want to go back to the pricing and what we discussed. So like you mentioned, a lot of times, and I also tell my patients, you think that healthcare is expensive. Well, wait until you get sick. Being sick is more expensive, right?
Yeah, right.
So that's one of the things, and it's really not that expensive. Storing your stem cells is $250 a year, $249 a year.
Oh, wow.
There's an initial cost to harvest them because we do harvest them from every individual. We do extensive testing. So, overall, it's very cheap if you look at it, and the possibilities and everything that you can get out of it. You're looking at it, spending a couple of $1,000s to start up and then paying $249 a year.
Right.
That's really,
a couple $1,000 start. And also when they're getting the stem cell, it takes about 2 hours. So $2,000, 2 hours. And now you're invested in your body for a lifetime of things that you can't see that are going on, that the doctor can see inside of you. And knowing that we're going to need these stem cells, to me, it's just a minor investment into my future.
Yeah, it's a couple tanks of gas, unfortunately.
Yeah, right. And like Cris mentions, then you have a storage of cells that you can access at any time, and you can harness the potential of those cells. Now, talking about the regulatory part, we're seeing that the FDA is opening more and more to these technologies and therapies. And as we gain more information and research and clinical trials, we have thousands of clinical trials right now currently running. And as we get more information, more of these technologies is becoming more available. So we're seeing that it's going to be adopted more. And hopefully we see that insurances also start covering it. So it's not a big burden on the public. But we're seeing a lot of new research coming out, a lot of new technologies, and we're very excited to be part of it.
And it's a higher quality of recovery, but it's also the speed of recovery because it's less invasive. Cris, have you had personal experience in any of the procedures, and what difference have you seen comparatively to a normal sports surgery?
Right. I haven't had any type of surgery. We're working on that now. I've been very, very fortunate as far as my ankles, my knee joints, my hip joints, and things like that. None of them have been replaced. And I haven't had surgery on any of those joints except one ankle. So Carlos is trying to keep me off the operating table. But what I have seen is I'm still playing basketball on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, 94 feet, full court. Soon to turn 57 years old. I think my overall body fat has really gone down, and my actual weight is 2 pounds heavier than my playing weight of 22 years ago. So there's different types of processes depending on where you are in your physical health. So for me, my sleeping is starting to become more regular. I'm not struggling with my sleep as much, and I can see my body recovering after doing my hardest workouts. So yes, I can see the benefits of the program that we've instilled.
And is each program customized, Doc? So if you have someone like me that's the average Division III football player that, you know, travels a lot and had an Achilles from playing co-ed softball with Warren Moon, I have a different plan than a Hall of Fame wide receiver.
Completely. Everybody's different and all the plans are individualized. The first thing that we did with Cris and we do with every patient is we get a full blood panel. We look at all these biomarkers. So that's the starting point. And then we focus on longevity. So how are we going to be able to impact positively your life and add healthy years to your life? That's what we're doing with Cris. That's what he's talking about right now. So we started him on a plan so that he can run, do his sports, feel great, sleep, you know, have all this energy and feel young again, you know. So that's the idea with Cris. We need to keep him around and healthy for a long time. So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
And my relatively the same age as me, Dave, and we got tested the same time. And Carlos and them have come up with a plan that is totally, it's a tailor-made suit. It's made for that person based on your blood work. And there's things that we can't see in that blood work that they're starting to treat that would give us problems into the future if we hadn't addressed it.
Correct.
I have another question. You know, have been involved for a while and I have 4 children and 3 of them, we took the stem cell from
the cord blood.
The cord program. But do you guys suggest, you know, taking our kids today that maybe weren't fortunate enough to get the cord program and putting the kids into the program today?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, it's a matter of time. It's not when or if you're going to use these cells, it's when you're going to use these cells. So we completely advocate and advise everybody. As a matter of fact, we have one of the sources that we store for children is dental pulp. So children that are losing teeth and have the serious teeth, they go to the dentist and we can extract some of those stem cells that are on dental pulp and store them. So that's one of the possibilities. So we have different sources and, you know, depending on the age, we can cater to the patient.
And the age, the earlier you get the stem cells, the more powerful they are?
The earlier, the better, because every day we're exposed to agents that damage our DNA. And that's the reason, you know, the earlier we save those cells, the healthier they're going to be and the more power they're going to have.
And where should people go if they want to learn more about it from you two? Where should they go and how can they sign up for a program?
Sure. They can go to our website, neomedicineinstitute.com. They can also follow us on social media, on Instagram, Neomed Institute. And they can follow Cris and me, Dr. Haas, and obviously Cris, and we'll be happy to answer any questions or they can get in contact with us directly.
Awesome. And Cris, what's the #1 question that your friends are asking you about the Neomedicine Institute? What's the #1 thing they're curious about?
Just like everyone else, how do you feel?
Yeah.
How's your recovery? And, you know, there's typically like 5 questions people ask about. What's the extraction? Is it painful? How long does it take? What's the cost? What's the yearly cost? And then you get into the typical questions as far as, man, does it work? And it really does work.
That's all I needed to hear. I will tell you one of my main statements that I tell people. I said, you know, if you're healthy, you get as many wishes a day as you want, no matter how old you are. But if you're unhealthy, you only got 1 wish. Let Dr. Carlos de la Hoz give you as many wishes as you want every day in a really non-invasive way. The incredible, the Ohio State University's Cris Carter, Pro Football Hall of Famer, with the incredible Dr. Carlos de la Hoz with the Neomedicine Institute. Check it out. Give yourself a better quality of life. These are 2 experts that I know that are delivering what they promise. Thank you both for joining me. This is Dave Meltzer with Entrepreneurs, the Playbook.